Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
These are tough times, and they're getting even tougher. The clock is ticking. The countdown to collapse is well underway. What are you going to do about it? Will you just wait for it to happen, or will you be ready when it happens? The decision is yours, and yours alone. Join myself, Mickey Fulp, Robert Ian, David Morgan, Jeff Berwick, Elijah Johnson, Alan Butler, Gregory Manarino, Daniel Amaduri, Andy Hoffman, Tekoa Da Silva, Trace Mayer, one of the world's leading Bitcoin authorities, Bix Weir, Jay Taylor, and Gary Christensen at the Liberty Mastermind Symposium in Las Vegas on February 21st and 22nd, and learn how to create your plan to survive the collapse. The last Liberty Mastermind Symposium was one of the most highly rated conferences ever, and this one promises to be even better. Don't miss it. Join us and register now at libertymastermind.us. libertymastermind.us. This one is going to be out of this world, and it's going to be even better because it's in Las Vegas, Nevada. Go to Liberty Mastermind US and sign up today. You are listening to the FinancialSurvivalNetwork.com. I'm Kerry Lutz on 1230 WBZT. Well, you probably heard about the oral argument that took place in the U.S. Supreme Court concerning the president's recess power appointment, the ability to appoint officials during congressional recesses, and the abuse that's grown ever more apparent over the past decades, and it's reached new highs during the current administration. Supreme Court seems to be fed up with the encroaching, expanding presidential powers, and seems like they're ready to do something about it. We'll see about that. Here to talk about it, well, you're probably familiar with Dave Bego, author of the book The Devil at Our Doorstep. Dave, welcome back to the Financial Survival Network.
Okay, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Hey, so what'd you think about that when you were reading about the even the most liberal left-wing members of the Supreme Court seem ready to strike it down?
Well, to be honest with you, I was kind of surprised. I didn't get a chance to follow it yesterday as much as I wanted to, and then when I saw the news clips and read the article on it, I was shocked because, this is a big part of this administration's goals is to get people in the National Labor Relations Board that are extremely radical and change the regulations and laws so that unions can rapidly force unionize people. And, I think the Supreme Court failed us here back in November and December when they were ruling on the neutrality agreement, and they decided to pass on it and not make a ruling. And part of that I blame on the fact that the attorneys for the employee that had brought the suit did not do a very good job. But I also believe, and this is where I'm going with this, is that, Kerry, I think that the administration and the unions are putting pressure on some of the Supreme Court justices behind the scenes to rule in their favor. And I think they got that done with the neutrality agreement. I hope they don't get it done with this one. And it appears like maybe this one's such a big, bright issue that's out in front of the public that they realize they can't do it.
Yeah, and just in case you're not aware, the Constitution allows the president to make appointments during congressional recesses, but it's a very limited power. And basically what's been happening over time is when the Congress hits a jam up where they don't appoint officials that the president has put before them, the president will wait till a recess and then just go ahead and appoint them. And this happened with the NLRB, happened with the newly constituted Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And these appointments are made for a period of 1 year. The president can go and do a new recess appointment the following year, but then the appointee, if it's the same one, doesn't get paid. And this happened with the NLRB and the Financial Protection Bureau, and basically the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia overturned these rulings, these appointments, and called into question hundreds of NLRB rulings. And the Supreme Court, if it upholds that decision, Dave, it's going to kind of create chaos, isn't it?
Well, it is, because businesses and, of course, the unions have been waiting to see the outcome, and the unions were pushing a lot of really radical regulations that the NLRB was pushing through, and now they're going to have to go back and revisit all those because, they were looking at a lot of different things that would give the unions the ability to get businesses like mine, which we fought off, to sign neutrality agreements and go directly to card check. And by taking and reversing some of these decisions, it's going to put the unions back at square one. And so the NLRB, with their current appointees, who I don't think are quite as radical as the recess appointees were, are going to have their work cut out from them. But make no mistake, they're going to go back and try and reinforce and put these regulations back in place.
Well, one thing is that there's a process for implementing new regulations and new rules where you have to publish them in the Federal Register, and then there's a comment period. I think it's 90 days or 120 days, depending upon the nature of the rule or the regulation. That's all spelled out in the federal law. Comment period, and then the rule or the regulation will take effect, and they're going to have to start all of this stuff from scratch. As far as the rulings on particular cases, I don't know what they'll have to do. Will they have to hear those cases again? I would think they would, because there'll be different people hearing, because there's different appointees, right? So they'll have to go hear them again, won't they? Hundreds of them for the NLRB.
Well, some of them, but you got to understand, these people, kind of like the president, he plays by his own rules, and so do they. And in some cases, and I can't remember the exact ruling they overturned now, but they went back and they researched it on their own, this particular group, and said, no, that the people that ruled initially had it wrong. And so they unilaterally overturned it and was putting it back into play. And I don't know that this group will do that, but, there's the potential that could happen again. And I think that the American people and Congress and the Supreme Court have to be on guard and watching closely, because they do a lot of sleight of hand. They'll be talking about some things, and all of a sudden they'll shift something through on the backside, and they'll do so many at once. It's hard for people to keep track of, but that's what they do. That's how they overwhelm people, and they overwhelm the system. So yes, I think it's going to take some time, but the other side of it is, I think we've got to really pay attention to what's going on.
Hey, and Senator Ted Cruz, love him or hate him, he just recently, over last weekend, was warning about the fact that this administration, the way it's expanded executive power, ruling through executive orders, and just look at Obamacare, the way it's written in law by the Congress, all these deadlines, all of these mandates, the employer mandate, the individual mandate, everything, and they just change them at will, and it's clearly not allowed. Now, Dave, you've got 11 state attorneys general suing the Justice Department, saying you can't just unilaterally modify a law. There's a process in place called the U.S. Congress for doing exactly that. You can't just change laws on the fly. And I'd venture to say it's been done here and there a little bit by prior administrations, but never, Dave, to the extent it's being done now.
Well, no, and in my blog last week, I Divide and Conquer, I talk about the president doing these things and the fact he's bringing up other programs like extending unemployment, and he wants to do the living or / minimum wage, and he's trying to push all these things through, and that's to try and divide the nation on votes in that. But at the same time, he's just like what I experienced with the big labor bosses. They interpret things the way they want to interpret them, and they don't care about the law. It's whatever, the ends justify the means. And that's the way this president looks at it. And as I talk about in my blog, and I wish people would go watch, there's a link in there, and it's called SEIU and Obama Sitting in a Tree. And it is a video of Obama with the SEIU in Chicago in 2008, shortly before the election. And he's at a rally with him where he says, I've been a part of you my whole adult life. I've worked with you. I've organized with you, and we're going to paint this country purple. And purple is the color of the SEIU. And people need to wake up to this, because in another blog I wrote about a year and a half ago, the SEIU was marching in the streets of California with the Communist Party. So you connect the dots. You see where this guy's going. He has no respect for our Constitution, for our laws. He's going to run over them any way he can.
Yeah, just remarkable. And who would think the Constitution worked so well up until the early 1900s, ensured a prosperous republic with individual freedoms. Never in the history of humanity, of civilization, had anything worked so well, and now it's just being disassembled before our very eyes.
Well, it is, and it's sad, and I do a lot of speeches, too. I spoke in front of a group called Eagle Forum yesterday here in Indianapolis, and most of them are elderly, and you can see in their eyes that they are sad at where this country is going, because they realize the opportunity that this country and our government, the way it was founded, gives to people to, determine their own future and to be self-sufficient and things like that. And it's all going down the drain because we now have people in power that are socialists, and they want us to be all the same. They want us to all make about the same money, do the same things, and it's all about control in the end. Because, and I found this with the union bosses, their contracts are structured. Wage rates are the same, productivity rates are the same. There's certain rules: you can do this, you can't do that, and everything. And the reason they do it, it's easy to manage them, and that's what this whole thing's about. It's about control. Yeah,
and who's controlling whom? Who's got the power? Who wants the power?
Well, that's right. And, the sad thing is, and I have to tell you on both sides of the aisle, because I've been to Washington a lot and I speak to politicians on both sides of the aisle, we have problems on both sides. And I think we need term limits. I know a lot of people would argue with me on that. But I've actually had, Kerry, congressmen come up to me and say, Dave, we don't know what we would do in the private sector. We need to stay in politics and stay in Washington. I mean, Kerry, that's sad. That's not the way our forefathers envisioned this.
Exactly. I mean, really, hate to use the old cliche, they'd be rolling in their graves, but they'd be doing something, that's for sure. Could you imagine if they came back, if Washington, Jefferson, Madison came back just to review their handiwork a couple hundred years later, almost 240 years later? I think they would just be shocked at the micromanaging and the expansion of centralized, federalized government and the diminution of individual rights. And I just don't think they would be too happy with what's gone on. So, hey, Dave, find out more about you, get your book, subscribe to your blog. Where do you go?
Go to the devilatourdoorstep.com, and I hope people will read it and read my book. I'm prejudiced, obviously, because it's my book, but I wrote it because I'm trying to wake up the American people. And just one last comment, I have to tell you, the lady that ran this speech that I was at yesterday, she had read my book, and she had notes, all little sticky tags on pages all throughout it, and then those pages had things underlined and highlighted, and she took some of my biggest salient points throughout the book and put them in a cover sheet that she handed out to everybody. And the woman really understood that what my book is about is not just about unions. It's about what's happening to our country, and that we need to wake up.
Couldn't agree more with you, Dave, and thanks as always for coming on. Don't forget, go to the financialsurvivalnetwork.com, libertymastermind.us. That's our conference about individual liberty. The clock is ticking, countdown to collapse. You need to be there because you need to figure out what you're going to do if the ultimate event happens and everything hits the fan. libertymastermind.us. Dave, always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks a lot, Kerry, and you have a great week.
Hi, it's Kerry Lutz. I recently decided to move my retirement account into physical precious metals to hedge against the coming times. If you want to move an existing retirement account into physical precious metals that you can hold in your hand, tax-free, there's no company that can do it more quickly and efficiently than Regal Assets. It took them just 24 hours to open my new IRA account, and all I had to do was fill out one simple form. The best part is that Regal Assets does all the work for you. They cover the setup and administrative costs for 2013. If you're interested in making the same move I did, call 855-678-6620, 855-678-6620. That's 855-678-6620, or visit them at regalassets.com. You'll be glad you did, and tell them Kerry sent you. What happens if the collapse never really comes? You need income, and Jason Hartman can help you get it. He's helped thousands of people realize their dreams of financial independence through real estate investing, and now he's got an unbeatable offer for you. He's offering my ebook, Forget Wall Street, Go for the Gold and Silver Too, for free. Just visit jasonhartman.com/Lutz. The first 100 Financial Survival Network listeners will get the book free. Remember, you can't afford to put all your eggs in one basket. Real estate should be part of a balanced investment portfolio along with gold and silver. Just go to jasonhartman.com/Lutz and sign up today. When it comes to real estate investing, Jason Hartman is the only person we trust on the Financial Survival Network. So make your money work as hard as you do by building an income property empire. Real estate is America's proven investment. Go to www.jasonhartman.com/Lutz and get your free ebook today. That's Jason, HARTMAN.com/Lutz. That's Jason, HARTMAN.com/Lutz. Jason knows how to help you retire with a portfolio of income-producing property. Go to jasonhartman.com/Lutz.
The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.